Hi, and welcome to another episode of pianoTV. So today I have a special guest. He is my friend from the Yukon Territories.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to kind of introduce what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about personal training and lifting, and then how that relates to piano. So, Steve, tell the good people what you do.
Okay, so I live in the Yukon, as Allysia said. I am a personal trainer up there. I just finished schooling, and I just came off a 5-week break, so Logan can digitally enhance my muscles so I look more authoritative on the issue. I've noticed with lifting that a lot of what I learned there, I'm able to apply to other things in my life so that I can gain more skills. So I thought, why not apply it to piano?
And Steve is also like a casual musician himself, so he's...
Yes,
you dabbled in things.
Yes, I'm a very good dabbler.
You dabble the piano and guitar and the harmonica and screaming.
Yeah, and screaming.
Yeah.
Mostly just dabble on those 4.
Alrighty, so let's get to it.
Okay, so here's our first
law of lifting.
So the first one is you are never too good for a warm-up. So when I go to the gym, I am decently strong, but not the strongest. But I'll see people who are just as strong as me, and they just walk in, throw on their max weight, and then just start going, and I'm like, that's a knee explosion waiting to happen.
Whoa, bad mental image there.
They go into the gym without thinking they need to start small and build up to something. They're just like, okay, I'm doing this max weight, so I'm going to do it. And I can't see that being an effective thing.
Yeah, just like jumping straight into it. So basically what you're saying is that the more advanced you get at something, the more likely you are to just like ignore warm-ups and be like, I'm awesome now, I don't need to warm up anymore.
Exactly. So it's like, oh, I don't need scales, I don't need anything like that. I'm just going to play Bach 24/7. Everything's a max. Everything's a max, right? So
yeah, so it's important to warm up, folks. Even if you're very, very good at piano, don't neglect your scales or your like light technical exercises, because that's not a knee explosion in piano, but it's like it's an injury waiting to happen, right? You always want to get the blood in your hands, literally, before you jump into the heavier stuff. Serious.
I do think Mozart exploded one knee playing the piano without a warm up. Number 2, law of lifting, work hard, work smart, and don't be stupid. So if you see people at the gym who are huge, and then you look at them and say, well, they don't do anything right, but why are they still huge? Because...
Well, I probably wouldn't think that. I'd probably be like, oh, that person's huge, they must be an awesome lifter.
Yeah, well, okay, that's true. And I guess the same would be said if someone played me a really awesome song on piano. I'd be like, well, they must know everything. And then you're like, play this other very simple song. And then,
they're like...
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because it's all, it's memorized, so they've been working hard at it, but they haven't been smart about it, so they've kind of forgotten the base of the fundamentals.
So they haven't learned the fundamentals.
Right,
okay.
So everything that they do is rehearsed as opposed to remembering all the skills, or like taking the skills they've learned in other songs and applying it to a new song.
Mm-hmm.
They've just learned that song.
Yeah.
So you see people at the gym, it's like they just learned to like lift a lot of weight a lot of times. So like they go to the gym 5 times a week, 2 hours a day, and so they do that for 10 years. They do anything for 10 years, you're going to get results, right?
Yeah, that's true. So even if you're not doing it properly.
Yeah, so you could take the hardest song on piano, practice it for 10 years. You'd eventually
that's commitment.
That's commitment. One song, 10 years. But if you do that, you're going to be able to play that song, but then you go back to learn other songs, and it's like, well, I don't actually have the basis for like what would have helped me learn that song in the first place.
Exactly. And I have a dance instructor that I knew gave me an interesting anecdote that's true. She said anyone can, go on YouTube and memorize a dance routine, but if you just memorize moves, then it's the same with piano. If you just kind of like memorize the motions without building from the ground up and building those fundamentals, you're never going to be able to apply those skills to another song or another dance. It's just going to be a matter of muscle memory as opposed to actually learning.
And it's the same thing with lifting, right? So like you might follow a program for 2-3 years, and then you're like, okay, now I want to work on this other aspect of fitness or exercise. And then you just have no idea where to start because you never actually learned why you were doing the things you were doing.
You just did them.
You just did them, right? Okay, so our next law of lifting is...
Find the fun in fundamentals.
Nice. Find the fun in fundamentals. So the number one thing people will tell me when I talk about training or lifting or whatever, they're like, yeah, like, I want to get in shape, but I don't like lifting. or I don't like running, or I don't like doing this or that. And the thing is like
practice is boring.
Yeah, exactly. They find practice to be boring, and like that's like, they want the goal. Like I want to play this amazing song on piano, but I don't want to really put in the work to do it.
Don't we all have that problem?
Yeah, so you want to find that fun in fundamentals, or
thank you for reusing that.
Solid. You just want to find passion and meaning in the boring stuff, because when you think of practice on the piano, you shouldn't be thinking like you shouldn't just be like boring, like this sucks, why am I doing this? And that's the same thing with lifting. It's not like I'm moving this bar up and down and up and down. I've never thought that moving a bar because I would die of boredom. What you want to be thinking is like, okay, so like, how is my body reacting to this exercise? Am I doing this exercise properly? How fast is the bar moving? Am I being effective? Am I doing 8 reps? Am I going to be doing 10 reps here?
Yeah, so staying like engaged in the process instead of like passive, right? So active, not passive.
Yeah, and so you're just not sitting back and just like going through the motions, because anyone who just goes through the motions is going to be bored for sure.
Not only bored, but like you could also be more prone to injury because you're not paying attention.
Exactly, and that's actually a really good point, because you're not actually engaged in the process of practice, so you let yourself get sloppy, wrist droop, back slouch.
Yeah. So how do you make, you kind of touched on this already, but how do you make lifting more fun instead of boring?
What you need to do is be thinking about the process, and I guess being active about it is the best way you can put it.
Okay, so just being present in the moment.
Exactly, and
without to get too woo-woo.
Don't have to be too woo-woo about it, but it could be like a form of like meditation, just mindfulness about the actions.
That's probably the better word. Yeah.
And like people are mindful about all sorts of stuff, because usually those are like the things they're mindful about are really brighten in their face, like a concert or a video game. It's harder to be mindful about piano.
Repetitive motions.
Repetitive motions, but you should still be thinking like, what am I doing? Like, am I doing this effectively? And what am I getting out of this? Yeah,
and when you're doing it, like if you find, this is what I do anyway, like I try to stay really active and engaged while I'm practicing, thinking about what I'm doing. And if I find my mind starts to keep wandering, then I know it's time for a break. I don't know if it's like that for you, but I have a pretty limited attention span when I'm doing hard work on the piano. So it's like, so always like if your mind keeps wandering, you need to do something else or like change what you're doing.
Definitely. Yeah, and if you can't stay in the moment, then that's fine too. You don't need to be practicing all the time, but it's just important to understand that practice can be meaningful. It doesn't have to be a boring drudgery for you.
Well said.
Well said.
So that is the first part of this video with Steve being our resident personal trainer expert and giving advice that transfers from lifting to the piano. So stay tuned for our next video where we will continue this conversation and get into even more awesome details.
Yay! High five.
If you're playing Mario and then you're like, oh, I'm just gonna like blow the whistle and skip ahead, but then you like don't end up with enough lives, so you're like on this really hard level and you don't have like any lives. Is that making...
Yeah, no. Played Mario 3 warp whistles right to level 8. Blew past all the levels without learning anything from it.
Yeah, it's happened to us all. Mario lessons.
Yeah, exactly.
Applied to music and lifting.